subscribe.
なんだか気の毒な生き物出てきた。かわいい。
Car D Kaizoku.
Patreon. This video is sponsored by Card Market, Europe's largest online marketplace for trading card games. In a recent Japan One Piece card game YouTube stream, they announced that at the World Finals they're going to announce a revision to the ban list. This is exciting news. It's going to have a lot of game-changing ramifications. And I'm going to assume that since it's being announced at the World Finals, that this ban list will apply to both the English and the Japanese version of the game. Or else why would they do it at the World Finals, right? Hopefully we'll even get some news on maybe our sets being in sync with Japan too, but probably not likely to happen, but we'll always have hope. I do not think they'll hit any cards in OP06. So like OP cards like 8-cost Gecko Moria, I think they'll leave alone because we haven't even gotten them yet in English, and I don't think they'll ban cards before we get them in English. So I'm pretty sure 06 is off limits. It'll be anything 05 and before. So that means that there will be changes to the ban list. It's not a maybe. But the changes to the ban list means it could be just additions, it could be removals. Ideally, I wouldn't want any ban list at all, but it looks like we're gonna have to brace for impact on there being probably some additions, right? I don't think they'd make a big deal if they just removed like Kabaji and Moby Dick from the ban list. So I do think they will add some other cards to the ban list. It's just a matter of which one. So here are some of the candidates that I think that they're gonna hit. Right, first off and foremost, 10-cost Big Mom. I think this is a contentious choice for people to want to have banned or not. I don't think it should be banned outright, but I do think that maybe limited to one copy makes sense. Just design-wise, I don't think it works too well. Because if you're behind as Katakuri, dropping a 10 Mom will kill you. But if you're ahead with Katakuri, 10-cost Big Mom will just outright win you the game. I feel like there should be a middle ground where the opponent can like play around it. But yeah, it seems it's either you cannot drop 10 Mom and you lose, or you drop 10 Mom and you definitely win. And I do think that they printed that new OP07 secret rare ace as a replacement for this 10 Mom because they're going to like restrict it or ban it soon. But yeah, I think restricting it to one copy makes sense. That way in games where like it's really oppressive, they can't do it back to back, and then in games where you die if you drop 10 Mom, then you're glad you only have one anyway. So I feel like that solution makes sense, and then you'll have Ace as a alternative. Up next we have Capone Bege, or it's just Capone Bege on this version of the card that I have the image for. Another yellow card that I think maybe should get banned. Because to be honest, the trigger is really strong. Like every other yellow trigger at least has like a drawback. Like Onami and Thunderbolt can only hit 5 costs, so there's at least that cost restriction. Amaru and other cards like that that heal you at a trigger, they at least require you to discard 2 cards or something. And then like character triggers also like require you to like discard a card in hand to play them out, or if they're the Wano package ones, your opponent has to be at 3 life. So yeah, all the other yellow triggers that like have such game-changing effects on trigger do have at least a cost that makes it justified, but Bege does not. He just gets to target any character or leader and make them unable to attack. So because of that, I would like to see this card banned, if not at least limited. And then I hope they print like a card that's similar to it, but with a little more thought into like the requirements on the trigger. Maybe make it so that you have to discard a card to nullify something from attacking. And then also I do think Hound Blaze, OP05 Hound Blaze, should at least be restricted, probably not banned, because you do need to combo it with black, so it's only good in like a Sakazuki deck. But yeah, in a Sakazuki deck or in a blue-black deck, Hound Blaze is quite oppressive. Being able to access a bottom deck effect at 2 Dawn, and bottom decking is way more valued than KOing because there's a lot of ways to prevent KOs, but there's really only 7-cost Enel that can prevent a bottom deck that I can think of off the top of my head. but there could be more. I could just not know of the card. But yeah, Hound Blaze, bottom deck effect, and it also busts for 3k, so it's already Dawn efficient at 2 Dawn. It's just a little too much value, I feel, for a 2 Dawn event. And it even has a trigger. The trigger is pretty nice too. It can bounce 3 cost to hand. Yeah, one of Sakazuki's like very strong early game plays is to bottom deck a 4 drop or a 3 drop that you play and then attack with brand new for 6 or 7k. I feel like that just sets Sakazuki so far ahead, being able to swing at life for such a big number while getting rid of a body. So I would like to see Hound Blaze hit in some capacity. Up next we also have Ice Age. I think Ice Age is quite a problem. I would not mind this being limited to 1 copy. 1 Dawn for -5 cost is pretty insane when you think about it. If we use the metric of like a vanilla stat line, where like a 5 cost unit would have 7k power, Ice Age would bring them to a 0 cost, essentially making them like a 2k power character. Meanwhile, a card like Gordon would give -3k to something, so if you did give like a 7k power character -3k, he'd have the same stat line as a 2 cost. So when you think about it, this is a 1 Dawn event that makes something a 0 cost, while Gordon just makes something a 2 cost. And then there's a lot more KO effects and bottom deck effects in black, and then with blue with Sakazuki than there are in red. So not only does this provide you more access to higher costed characters, it is in the colors that have a lot of ways to utilize it too. So I do think Ice Age activates too much, it's too much value for black. I think I see Gecko Moria starting to run 4 copies of this. So yeah, I would like to see Ice Age hit. And it even has a trigger that KOs at 3 cost. I don't want to outright ban it, so I'm gonna have to say 1 copy. Feels good to me. Up next we have Rebecca, another black card. It's such a good generic black card that it's run in Sakazuki, it's run in Black Yellow Big Mom, it's run in Gecko Moria, it'll be run in every black deck probably going forward, unless they power creep it. But yeah, just being able to play a blocker and draw a card from your trash, and then play something else from your hand, and it has 1k counter too. That's just too many things it does for 4 Dawn. And yeah, it has 0 power, so it'll never attack, but you usually don't attack with blockers anyway, so it's no big deal really. Would I want Rebecca outright banned though? I think I'd be okay seeing Rebecca at like 2 copies. 4 seems pretty oppressive and it makes it too easy to find in Sakazuki, but I feel like 2 would be a good number. Especially with 8 cost Gecko Moria being able to bring it back from your discard. Yeah, there's just too many easy ways to get Rebecca out, so maybe 2 copies would fix that. I'd also like to see Borsalino, 4 cost blocker Borsalino, restricted to some capacity. I don't want him banned outright because I do think he does offer some like counterplay to KO heavy decks, being immune to KO himself. But the weird thing is that the color that has all the KO effects is the color that this card is in. So it's like the tech against removal is playing a removal deck with this blocker that can't be removed, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of backwards. I always thought that was kind of weird with the One Piece card game, where the mechanic that counters a color is printed within the color itself. But yeah, that does mean that the mirror, black mirror, always comes down to who can drop more Borsalinos out first, or in the Sakazuki mirror, it comes down to who can find their Hound Blazes and their 7 cost Borsalinos and their Ama no Murakumos first for their bottom deck effects to get rid of the opponent's Borsalinos. And then the prevalence of 8 cost Gecko Moria out in the meta does make it really easy to get Borsalinos out on field from his on play effect. Yeah, OP05 and then especially OP06 onward, we do see a heavy representation of Borsalino in all black decks that might indicate that he may need to be hit in some capacity. So if they do hit Borsalino, I would completely understand why. I wish they would print something like this in other colors to deal with the removal in black and not make the counter to black be a black card itself. Up next is Curly Dadan. I do think they should limit Curly Dadan. I think Curly Dadan does make the like design space for red 1 cost characters really restrictive. I don't think they've released a good 1 cost in red since like OP03 with Buggy. And I think it has to do with the Curly Dadan being available in the meta, meaning you can search it in any 1 cost red deck. So if it takes limiting Curly Dadan for them to explore more design space with more interesting 1-cost red cards. I would prefer that. I don't think she's a big enough problem that she needs to be banned. Maybe even 2 copies would make sense. Yeah, but probably want to have Curly Dadan hit in some capacity, just to open up more design space in red. Up next, we also have 10-cost Doflamingo. So green right now is not the best color. It's not in the best spot. But OP06 does give it quite the boost. And then in OP07, it looks like green might be a color to be trifled with. And I think a lot of green's win conditions depends on this guy. If green can drop back-to-back 10-cost Doflamingos, they usually win. And if they cannot find them, they usually lose. So I would be okay with Doflamingo restricted to like 1 copy, so you can't play it back-to-back. Just like the same thing they did with 9-cost Whitebeard, just 1 copy, so you can't play it back-to-back. Because yeah, this Doflamingo just buys you another turn to develop more big bodies or get more swings in. And as I mentioned, back-to-back 10-cost Doflamingos will just lock out your opponent for a few turns while you develop 10k bodies that can swing for lethal after. So one copy does make sense for this card for me. And that brings us to Kabaji. From OP02, this was banned because it made Nami too good. Because it was like a Kaya, except you get +1 in cards in hand. You don't have to discard 2, you only discard 1. And all it takes was having emoji already on board. And then you just bounce it back to hand, like you kind of do with Kaya now with Arabesque Breakfast or Zeph or Overheat and cards like that. Will they unban Kabaji? Right? Because it's a change to the ban list. It's not necessarily only additions. They could remove things. Maybe they only remove things? Well, since OP02, there's a heck of a lot more removal. Yellow has removal, black has removal, blue has removal, red has removal. Green kind of needs to rest something first before they can deal with it. So yeah, there are a lot more ways to get rid of Moji or Kabaji on board. So the Nami player will just have to play around that a lot more. Like only play Kabaji out when you can get a Moji out as well, and then bounce it back to hand a few times. In that regard, there is still like no counterplay to this if they play it that way. They can't just freely drop these out on board. In which case, yeah, Nami is or would be as good as she was back in 02 with Kabaji. So I'm not really sure. He might stay banned in that case, right? Because even if there's more answers to disrupt the combo, they just have to keep it in hand until they can get the most uses out of it. I'm completely not sure what they'll do with Kabaji. But if they kept him banned, it would make sense. And then we have Moby Dick, the stage card in Whitebeard. Another card that is banned that they could unban. They banned Moby Dick because it was like too much free power in a Whitebeard deck early on. And this made the pure Whitebeard deck way stronger than the Strawbeard variant. Because you'd play cards like Squad and you'd play cards like Vista early on. And the vanillas, and then they'll all get plus 2k buff when you're at 1 life. And yeah, this is especially dangerous at the very later stages in the game where Whitebeard starts leaving a bunch of Dawn up for defense. So having Moby Dick up to give plus 2k to every character means like a bunch of Dawn that they don't have to invest into their characters to swing, leaving them up with more Dawn to defend themselves with. But the question is, now that it's like 4 sets later, or will be 4 sets later, has every other color been power crept enough that this stage card is not as oppressing? Well, the only thing that worries me is that it's not like Whitebeard's in the gutter right now. He's like just outside the window of viability. So adding something like Moby Dick back in could push them back into meta viability, but I don't know if it'll push them too much into the meta. Maybe they just limit this card, because we do have Izo now as a searcher. That was the reason why Moby Dick got banned in the first place. It was just too easy to find 4 copies of it with Izo in your deck. Maybe 2 copies of Moby Dick is the sweet spot. Yeah, honestly, they could unban this just to see how Whitebeard does in the meta with Moby Dick. and I get to say Dickbeard again. But also if they keep it banned, I'll also understand why. Because yeah, plus 2k for free to every character for 2 Dadan. Does sound like a really good effect still. And then lastly, it is not a Bandai banned and restricted list unless it's a card that no one asked to be banned and doesn't make sense to be banned, and it's like way out of left field and it has to be a red card. So I'm gonna throw in OP02 Ace. Maybe they'll ban Ace for fun. It's like in lore too, it's flavorful because Ace dies. So might as well ban him from the card game. Just like they did with OP01 Nami Searcher, where everyone was like, why'd you ban this card? I think they'll do the same. It could not be Ace, but I couldn't think of anyone else that would fit that MO. So I'll have to go with Ace for now. Sorry, Ace. Alright, and that is my video of my ban restricted speculation on what they're going to announce at the World Finals stream. Let me know what you guys think they should hit, what cards that you have trouble with that you think should be dealt with the ban or restricted list. There's going to be market ramifications to this, so I can't wait to see how that affects my dashboards. My hope is they time it at a time, like in between sets, not in the middle of sets, so that everyone can prepare from the get-go into any new formats with the ban list. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Card Kaizoku.